Welcome back to this episode of AHC Garage. Now, if you've been following my build, my 2006 Acura RSX Type-S, you might remember that this is my childhood dream car. Yes, an Acura RSX was. Everyone had them but me. Now, I purchased this car for around $9,000 over 4 years ago. In white, not my first choice, but I was gonna be happy with it anyways. Now, the original intent with this vehicle was to just give it a refresh, an overhaul of the engine, paint it over again. But then I started to look more for a blue RSX and I couldn't find one. So we came up with a great idea. Since I'm a painter, we were gonna paint my white one to vivid blue. So we tore down every single part on this car and we gave it a full paint job, starting with the whole engine bay. We gave it a full paint job through the jams, and everywhere on this vehicle was completely touched. And being that this journey started over 4 years ago, I was able to source some of the hardest parts to find that were still available from the OEM dealership. And that's how exactly we got them on the car. Now, if we left off in the last episode, you might remember that we were able to modify the vehicle with some exhaust, a short shifter, and some other modifications in the interior, the custom interior, as well as the radio, and I really have been enjoying it. But now we have some other things to tighten up on the vehicle. For instance, I don't really feel comfortable driving this car on the road with this beautiful paint job without the protection. So what you're gonna see in this episode is we're gonna go ahead and get the PPF all done to the whole entire front end. And then we have some other issues on the vehicle I wanna talk about. Like these seat belts, they're old, they're original, and when they're on your lap, they just sit there and they never retract. So we're gonna get with Seatbelt Planet, and we're gonna get these completely refreshed and overhauled, and we're gonna show you how they do it over at their factory. Now, we also have some rare trim pieces that we had to pay a little money for, like the interior trim pieces that I was really after. We're gonna talk to you about how we had to get 2 kits to combine them just to get 1 kit to get that factory interior dash trim kit. One thing that really is bothering me about this car is these calipers right there. Now, we've been waiting, I would at least say about 6 months for our Spoon big brake kit to come in. And it's not only gonna be the brakes in the front, we're gonna do a whole overhaul on the whole braking system, and I can't wait to see what the guys do with it. But first, let's jump in to protecting this car with PPF. Now, for the first time, I was excited for my RSX to leave the shop to get the next treatment it needed. Now, we took it over to Apollo Tuned, and what the guys did over there is just give it that fine tuning of polishing that it needed right before it got its PPF on the front end. Now, the guys over there ended up doing a full detail, a polish, and a ceramic coating on the vehicle, and it looked phenomenal after. But what they're doing right now is prepping it out for the PPF. It's important to note that if you have any sort of little debris or little piece of tiny trash, it will pop up through the PPF. And we wanted to make sure that everything was completely removed. So the guys spent some time just to really get really particular about the tiniest of imperfections in the paint to get them completely smoothed out. And then the guys called me in a special favor from one of the top PPF guys down here in South Florida. They actually came in to work specifically on the RSX. Usually cars get put on a flatbed over to the shop in Pompano, which is about an hour from where we're at. These guys specifically came down to work on my vehicle. They usually only work on exotics, but this is the best PPF team down here, guys. They do everything completely hand cut. You don't see any edges. You don't even know there's any film on the vehicle. Now, prior to doing the PPF, they gave me 3 selections I can choose from, and I wanted the film that had the most factory look, that factory finish. And that's exactly why I chose the PPG. It had the best shine, in my opinion, and it had that nice factory look that will match the doors, even though the doors in the rest of the vehicle will not be PPF. Now, I was very hesitant to even drive the car without PPF on it. And remember, PPF must be cared for. You want to keep the car indoors as much as possible. That way it doesn't dry out. And also remember the fact that after a while, it can crack and become very hard to take off. So make sure that you're following the guidelines and taking it off within the manufactured time so it doesn't dry up. Now, these guys just completely cut everything precisely from the front lip to the bumper. That whole front end was 2 sections on that bumper, and when it was all done, it was completely flawless. boy, does that look good. Now stay tuned to the end of the video so you can see the final results and the final finish of the PPF. Next up, I want to talk to you about this great experience I had with seatbeltplanet.com. Now, my seatbelts being original, they just really were not retracting properly. They would just sit in your lap. So we went ahead and took apart the whole inside of the vehicle again, and boy, did it really feel good to take apart the inside of the vehicle and see a blue RSX. If you just joined this episode and you haven't watched the whole series, guys, this vehicle was completely white before. We actually painted the whole interior of the vehicle. So the process is very simple. I chose the front two that I wanted to send into Seatbelt Planet to get fixed up because the back were still fine because they really get ever used. So once you get them both removed, then just simply all you're gonna do is put them into a box and then ship it out to Seatbelt Planet. And it was really that easy. So I packed it up, I shipped it out, and then once they got it, they're gonna go through the whole process, and their whole process is really, really good. Basically, you can re-web it whatever color you want it, but I wanted to go with the same exact color. So they'll take pictures, they'll measure everything, they're gonna cut out your O-sewing, you're gonna get everything nice and cleaned up with the mechanisms of the seat belt components. They're gonna re-web it, re-sew it, and get it back to 100% specifications of the OEM and ship it right back to your door. And that's exactly what we have here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it apart, and when I'm taking it apart, it just seemed like it was a brand new seat belt. And once I took it out, I noticed that there was a package in there. I didn't know what it was. Well, it was actually the old webbing. It was wrapped up so nicely, I actually thought it was brand new until later. We'll show you when we took it apart. So basically, you'll get your seat belts back in two brand new boxes, again, as if they were brand new. And once you open it up, well, it's gonna reveal a basic brand new seat belt. Now, let me talk to you about these seat belts because originally I was gonna buy new ones. I'm always up for something new if it's available. Well, one side was discontinued and the other side that was available was over about $500. And well, the price to get these fixed was far under the cost of just one brand new OEM one. And when you take them apart, God, they look brand new OEM. The webbing is nice and black and clean again. The stitching is like factory. The labels are replaced. Everything looks the way it should be and ready to go back into the vehicle. So nonetheless, I was very excited to get everything back in and to see it back with my new interior. Now again, that old webbing, when I took it out, it all made sense. They actually went ahead and included it just so you can see that, hey, this is the old worn out webbing that might not have had a chance to ever retract properly within that seatbelt component. So it was back into the car, getting everything all bolted back up, and this whole process only took about a week. So we were only without the car for about a week if you didn't want to drive without the seatbelt. And then from there, it's really easy. All you gotta do is just bolt it back up, and then you're good to go. And we can see here, they retract really, really easily, and I'm happy to have them back in the car. Now, the next project was getting these OEM trim kits in the vehicle. I used a very thin double-sided tape from 3M that you can use for arts and crafts when you're doing some sort of arts and crafts book. Now, this kit was so hard to find, I had to get two kits to make up one, and I don't even want to tell you how much I had to pay just to get two kits that were not even perfect. Now, I did have the option to paint them, but you wouldn't be able to match some of the door handles and all the exclusive colors within the vehicle. I tried to match it up perfectly, but I said, let me just live with a couple of little areas that are just a little bit worn that you don't really see, like the seatbelt area and a couple other odds and ends towards the back of the actual console. At that point, I was ready to stick everything on, and everything stuck on really good with a super thin tape. It's very important to get off the old tape as well. As everything starts to come together, it starts to look really good. Now, I do believe there was another kit that was offered, maybe in the 02 to 03, that's a carbon fiber, but I really like the way that this looked inside the interior of the vehicle because it matched up to some of the stock factory pieces that were included, like the AC vent, the door handles, and a couple other areas within the vehicle, and it really just gives it a beautiful look. Now, our job is done here, and we're ready to pass it back into the shop to get the rest of those modifications all done. All right, so we just finished the dash trim kit, and it looks great. Now, we're ready for the spoon calipers. I've been really excited. Again, we waited since May, 6 months for these calipers to come in. They're the spoon calipers. It's a 4-piston caliper, and we have stainless steel brake lines. You guys want to check it out? Come on over here. When these arrived and I saw it, it's exactly what I pictured. But just look at that. It's so nice. You almost don't want to put it on the car. But it is the missing piece on the project, and it will 100% complete the project once we get everything all installed. Now, it's time for TJ and Mike to get to work.
So like Brian said, we are going to get on these brakes here. We'll get the old underwater rusty calipers off, and we'll go ahead and we have the spoon calipers for it, but I think you're supposed to use S2000 rotors. So what we're going to do is we have a set of used S2000 rotors. We're going to take these off. We'll pop those on, test fit it, see if it works, and if it works, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to get the proper slotted rotors that we want to match the rear, and then we'll go ahead and install all that, as well as some upgraded stainless steel brake lines, and that should tie everything all together with this car. All right, so now we got the wheels off, and we're gonna remove the calipers here. This is an S2000 rotor that we had from another car, and by the looks of things, it matches the stock rotor in size. So at this point, I'm pretty sure the only thing we really need to use is an S2000 brake pad, because that's what Spoon calls for these calipers, is S2000 brake pads. It does say it in the description. So I guess we just need to use the S2000 pads. We can reuse RSX rotors, but we'll probably end up getting a new set. Instead of the slotted or the drilled, we'll just get slotted, and we'll call it a day. This is the hardware kit that comes with the calipers. You got the bracket that's going to bolt on to the factory hub there. This is what's going to go and bolt the caliper to this. And then, of course, we got some new bolts that are going to bolt this down to the hub, and some washers. And that's about pretty much that. Self-explanatory there. Let's go ahead and test fit this and see how it looks. Alright, so we just trimmed the shield here a little bit to clear the bracket for the new calipers here. Yeah, it fits so much better now. We're gonna have to trim that too. Yeah. All right, now that we got the caliper on, rotor spins nice and free, so everything clears. We're gonna take the bracket, the pad holder here, and we're gonna slide some pads in that we have. We have some used S2000 pads. We'll slide those in and see how everything fits. Then we'll go ahead and get all of the new hardware, or the new pads and rotors together. Here's the deal. This is the factory pad. It's the same as an S2000. I guess we don't really need S2000 stuff. But if you see, when you slide it in, it doesn't sit flush. And what happened is that it's just barely touching the edge right here. So if you grind down a little bit of each side, not too much, just a very, very tiny bit, you can get it right here and it will slide right in, no problem. Just a little bit of edge on there to get the tolerance, and it slides right in, no problem. Then you're able to put the bracket on, which will hold the pad right in place and it doesn't move. So while we're waiting for the pads and rotors to come in for the spoon calipers, we're going to go ahead and remove the rear calipers and brackets so Brian can refinish them and make them look nice and fresh, like they were never underwater. All right, so earlier we had took the calipers off, and we took pads out and everything. Brian was able to refinish these and make them brand new silver looking again. So now we're going to take the rotors off. We got the new set of rotors in, new pads. We'll go ahead and swap everything out and put it all back together. And then after we do that, we'll get our new line on. Here is our rotor setup and our pads. We went with the Hawk HPS high performance street pads. There we go, nothing too crazy, but a nice little street pad, give them some good braking power. And then we have EBC rotors slotted. They are different colors, but as you know, once you start braking, it's going to end up turning into like a nice polish, and that'll be the same. So we'll go ahead and slap these on, put new pads in, and then we'll throw our brake lines on, bleed the system, take it for a test drive.
But guys, we all finished up with the rear brakes. Looks really nice with the refinished caliper. We finished this cap right over here off camera, give it that clean look. Take a look at that. And now we just gotta finish up the front here. So we're gonna take off the spoon caliper first, then we can move on to replace our brake rotor. There you go.
With the front pads and the spoon calipers, you got to cut off the indicator here. We just kind of grinded it off. That's what the indicator looked like. We grinded it off there. And being aftermarket pads, we don't have to grind these down at all. They just slide right in.
And here's the final product for the front. Fitment is perfect. Take a look at that. We got OEM caliper still in the back. We're going to swap out the brake lines now. TJ is prepping all 4 stainless steel brake lines along with the bolts and the washer here. So we got the last brake line all finished up here. Now we're going to move on to the bleeding. And we'll be using a vacuum bleeder. Just going to speed up the process. Well, my job is easy. All I'm going to do is just going to monitor the brake fluid level and the master cylinder here, like right now.
I'm gonna lock it up.
Okay. And we just finished up with the rear. Now we're going to move on to the front. The Spoon 4-piston caliper has 2 bleeder points, one on the inner portion, and which we just finished. Now we're going to move on to the outer portion. And we're going to go ahead and pull her back out. And the driver front will be a last caliper to bleed. All right. Back her up. All right, guys, let's give it a try. Oh yeah, yeah, it's nice. Go ahead and throw on our regular master here. Kind of give you an idea what it's going to look like. Yeah. Almighty gray. Blue spoon caliper. Take a look at that right there. Yeah, she's looking nice. Real nice. Here we go, guys.
All right, so the transformation on my Type S is complete now. Remember in the first episodes when this car came in rolling white and we gave you guys the option, should we paint it blaze orange or vivid blue? Well, I've got to tell you, once we took on that big task of changing the color into vivid blue, what a transformation we have here. And to see everything completely come together really is enjoyable each and every day. Now, there was a few last minute things that we did do other than the cowl and the wipers that we replaced and cleaned it up with some SEM trim paint, made it look really good. But off camera, a couple small things we were able to finish up is to change that power steering reservoir into a brand new one that was still available. Also, we went over to the battery side. We changed up the negative terminal and the positive terminal as well. And it's really got that factory look. Now, there was one final thing I needed to complete this car, and that was the Type S emblem. Now, this was a JDM Type S emblem. It was only available on the JDM RSX, and I have it here. We were able to find it. It has a special backing plate that we were able to put it on. So this is the legit one that would come with the JDM RSX, not an OEM Honda accessory. Now, I know a lot of you guys are wondering how much that costs and how much everything else costs on this build. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have one last video for you all, and it's going to be the full breakdown of everything from the paint, from the whole entire teardown, the engine components. We're gonna go down to the finest of every single detail of what it costs, so you guys can find out, is this a project that you might be able to take on yourself? Until then, guys, this is Brian from Acura Honda Classic and AHC Garage, thanking you, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.